Hello again. Um, Today I decided that I wanted to talk about probably what I would consider my favorite game of all time, I guess, and that's going to be Final Fantasy XIV. Um, Today it's like noon and I've had some coffee, so I don't feel so tired as I normally do, which is good because I think there's a lot to talk about with this game. Um, Again, I wanted to talk about this game next because I would estimate around 2,500 hours or so playing the game, which is a lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that play this game that probably have a lot more hours than that, but it's a lot for me. Typically, if I get to like 100 hours in a game, that's like the most I usually ever play in a long RPG. But with 14, it's a very long game to begin with, and it's a kind of a live service game, I think is what you would call it, where you can just kind of keep playing it. Um, and I got into Final Fantasy XIV right when I got my PS5. I had always I had I played a lot of Final Fantasy games over the years, and before I even got a PS5, kind of when I just got back into gaming with I got a Nintendo Switch was kind of what got me back into gaming, and 14 is not available on that. But I like to watch YouTube videos about video games, hence I'm making this video. And I was always interested in the videos about Final Fantasy XIV. It seemed so interesting and different than other games, and there was like a large community for it, and it was kind of ongoing. So it was kind of that, what's coming next with the game. And that actually really interested me. It was just kind of a different experience. I don't really have a lot of experience before 14 with any like MMOs or live service games for the most part. I typically, for the most part, play RPGs, JRPGs, and I'll play the game, beat the game, finish it, and then move on to the next one. But I was interested in 14 because A, it's Final Fantasy, and B, it's kind of a different experience. And so when I got the PS5, one of the first games I got, actually, interestingly enough, Final Fantasy VII Remake and 14 were like the two of the main games that I started playing when I first got the system. And it was so interesting because I knew I really wanted to play Remake so bad. That was like the first game I was going to play when I got the system, which it was. And as I was kind of playing those two games together, I almost found myself a little bit more drawn to 14, which, the graphics are not nearly as, flashy as 7 Remake or anything like that. And like the combat for Remake is real, action based and exciting and stuff. And especially the early parts of 14, it's kind of a slower paced combat and not as exciting as 7 Remake. But I found myself drawn to it because of the immersion and the size of the game. Like I think one of my main reasons that I like to play video games is like escapism. Same for like watching a movie and stuff like that. I enjoy large JRPGs where it has a fantasy world and you are just escaping into it. You know what I mean? And I'm really good mentally where I just like disassociate with my body and like I put myself in the mind of these characters and worlds and I'm there, baby. I'm like in it and I'm enjoying myself. Which is why I've always liked like the Xenoblade series. Like those are huge fantasy worlds and you're in it and you're just like, whoa, you're just like looking around like this is wild. Um, and so 14 is like the biggest game out there. It's been going on for 10 plus years. It has so many different expansions that bring along new areas and zones, and there's just like literally endless content that you can do in the game. And I found that fascinating and interesting, and I was drawn to it. And some of the other things that I kind of found myself enjoying, like the kind of continuing aspect of it, was sometimes when I'm playing like a long RPG, I like the big games I'm going to be spending a lot, dozens of hours in. And I enjoy that time, especially at the first beginning part of it. It's all so new and you're learning mechanics and exploring the world and getting the vibe and stuff. Um, but then a lot of times towards the end of the game, I find myself feeling a little melancholy that it's like, well, I've had such a great time with this game, but it's coming to an end. And once it's over, I'm probably not going to want to continue to play the game. At least that's how I normally am. Like when I'm playing a long game, I try to do all the side quest and side stuff before I finish it because for whatever reason, after I like roll credits, I usually don't hop back in to do extra stuff after that. Um, but I sometimes feel sad when a game is ending. And the thing I thought that was so interesting again with 14 is that it's not it doesn't really end. Like it you keep going. And and again that it also has to do with like building your character and making them stronger. You can spend so much time grinding in a game, but then once it's over, it's like, well, all that time I spent, grinding my character to get strong, comes to an end and I have to pick up something new, which is fun too. But with 14, the thought of like everything you're doing for your character is just going to continue on. So if I like spend 2 hours crafting to raise my crafting level, it doesn't feel like it's in vain as much because, a year from now, those crafting levels will assist me in crafting something in the future type of a thing. You know what I mean? So that is kind of a neat aspect of 14. You know what I mean? If you want to be attached to something that's kind of like ongoing, and if you do feel, similar feelings about games ending and stuff like that, it is kind of neat to have a game like 14 where you can just kind of continue to get stronger, continue to do things and things like that. And again, with a game that big, again, I feel like the immersion level of it is high. I am going to get to some critiques of the game and some negatives here, but I want to start mostly with the positives because again, it's one of my favorite games of all time. Um, so because the game is so alive and it's an MMO, so other people are running around doing quests and things like that. The world just feels very alive. So it's very easy to be like immersed in it. You know what I mean? People like role play in the game, and it's fun because I've gone. It's not majorly my bag, but I've definitely gone. Yeah, when I've been bored, I've like you can look up and see like there's a housing district that's throwing a nightclub where it has a certain theme, and like you go there and there's like music playing and there's people all in costumes and they're dancing and doing goofy stuff. It's fascinating. You know what I mean? It's wild. There's a whole crazy social element to the game that I didn't know what I would think about it, but it's cool. I mean, it's very nerdy. You know what I mean? But it's cool. No one's hurting anybody. They're just kind of having fun in this digital world type of a thing. I don't know. I got nothing against it, and it's fun to participate in sometimes. Um, so there's that aspect to it, and a little bit more about the different types of gameplay and stuff. The story of it is very good. It's very it's kind of got some ups and downs. There are some very very high points in the story, and there's some points that are not nearly reaching those peaks. Um, and I don't know if I'll go through everything because I mean there's so many different expansions. I mean to play from a level 1 character and to go through every expansion and be like current in the story, it is going to take like hundreds of hours. I don't know what the number is, but if you were just focusing on the story, I'm guessing at least 300 hours, maybe more. It is a long game, no lie. But the story generally is good. It draws from previous Final Fantasy games a lot. Any kind of like a Moogle or Cactar or any kind of weird Final Fantasy character, it's probably in this game. So if you're a fan of any of the previous games, I grew up playing Final Fantasy 4 and 6 when I was a little kid. I'll have to go into that because those games, like, I was a 13-year-old playing those games. My mind was blown. You know what I mean? It was crazy. So, but a lot of those chocobos and all that stuff is in a modern game, and you're running around flying on chocobos and stuff. I mean, it's fantastic. If you've played Final Fantasy games, it's just a great. It just feels fun. Like I said, and you can do the story, but again, hopping on a chocobo and going flying off into the world and just looking around and the immersion level of that, and you create your own character, you customize it. There's lots of different types of races and all this classes and all this kind of stuff. It's just so cool. So I would want to say, like, if you haven't played this game um, at all, I would obviously I recommend it. You got to try it. You can play it for free, I think, for hundreds of hours. And I'm one of the ones waving the flag like you got to play this game. It's really great. The UI is insane. It's an MMO. Like when you first start playing, there's just so many quests and stats and collectopedia. I mean, it's insane. You have to kind of get over some of that. Um, and I remember when I was playing A Realm Reborn, there were times where I was like, this game feels overwhelming. I don't know how to do all this stuff. And you just kind of have to press on with the story, and eventually things start clicking. When you get interested in things, you start, I went to YouTube and was just like, what is this mechanic? And then you like watch a video and learn a little bit more about it. Um, I mean, the tutorials are decent enough where you don't really need YouTube to play the game, but there's so much depth that you'll probably want to, look things up here and there to learn more about it. Um, the combat in the game is interesting. I It's weird because at first you're just like, this is like real simpleton. It's like kind of I never really found it like slow, but like when you're just doing like one-on-one encounters, you're just like pressing fire. Like I'm a black mage, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Um, but like I had this fire spell, and I'm just casting fire, and I'm like looking face on to this cactar, and I'm like, I'm just gonna burn you to death, little guy. And so it's early on it is a little simple, but it's amazing because the longer you go, it starts getting insanely complex. And like you have all these little sub moves, and you're like cross weaving different skills, and it feels very fast by the time you get to higher levels. And it's very, I mean, if you want to, it's it has a high skill ceiling if you want to play like super high end stuff. I don't really do the ultimates or savage rating. I try to play about everything else, so I'm kind of like, I don't know, like considered a casual because I don't really do the hard content. I've tried the hard content a little bit, and that's a whole nother conversation probably. It's cool and interesting, and at times I was really into it, but there is also that, if you're in a group of 8 people and like you goof up and do something wrong, then the other 7 are looking at you like, what did you just do there? And I've definitely done that before, and it's kind of a weird feeling where it's just like, oh, I'm sorry. I tend to not want to like let other people down in the game, so I tend to stick to stuff that's not too hard, so that way I'm like pulling my weight. But in the easier content, the standard content, I like to perform really well. So I have like try to learn different rotations that are you can do high damage, and different there's different intricacies about how you can play. So the combat is wide ranging, I would say. Overall, you can get really into the minutia of it, and there's a whole lot to fine tune and get good at. Or you can also just play casually, change jobs, and experience the different types of play styles. Um, all kind of stuff you can do with it. Um, One thing I have to talk about next probably is the music in the game, because, like I've mentioned before, music is very important to me in a game, because like all of the best games that, like, if I start making a list of like my favorite games or what I consider the best games, they have one thing in common, I think. They all have some of the best soundtracks for video games. It's really important because after you're done playing a game, when you're not playing a game, that music sometimes will be like still in your head, and it will bring you into that feeling of playing the game even when you're not. You know what I mean? Like there are so many different themes and scores in 14 where I could just be sitting here right now and think of some of the music from like Heaven's Word or any of it, and I'm just instantly brought back into the fantasy of the game and the feelings that I had at certain moments of the game, and it gives you all those great feelings from just the music. Um, the music is just so important, and in 14 they just absolutely kill it. I think the main composer's name is Soken. He's been with them for a long time, and he just produces so many amazing tracks. And sometimes it's woven into the story where it hits at key moments, and it's very wide ranging. Some of it's very digital and techno-y, and some of it's rock, some of it's orchestrated. All kind of, he's not bound by like a genre. It's all over the place, and it's all good, really. There's very little I would complain about with the music. It's one of the high points of the game. And again, if you play it and you're into it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Uh, there'll be songs in your head that play all the time, and it's just fabulous. Um, so, boy, what else can you talk? I've talked a little bit about the story is great. It's hard to get into too much detail because there's just so much story. The cast of characters is really good. The Scions of the Seventh Dawn are kind of like the main group that us follow with you through the story. They've been well, a lot of them have been there from A Realm Reborn that when you first start. We've lost a couple along the way, but I won't go into that for spoilers. Um, but yeah, it's a great cast of characters. It's funny, it's charming, it's dramatic. It has a wide range of emotions. The humor in it tends to usually hit at the right moments. The Xenoblade series does it a lot too, where there'll be moments of like really goofy humor, and that's okay. They deliver the humor in a like at the right times, and it's also at the right mood or the right vibe to it. It's good. And but so the characters are good. You know it's great. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to. I could blab about this game for a long time. There's just so much to talk about. Today I just wanted to kind of, I don't know, give you my initial thoughts on the game and stuff like that. um, I guess I will talk a little bit about uh, you know A Realm Reborn was great. There's the different expansions, and the latest one was Dawn Trail. And I right these days you know I didn't I wasn't vibing with Dawn Trail. I mean, right now that there's the whole everyone makes videos like Dawn Trail bad, all the stuff, the game's bad and stuff, and I don't want to like jump on that train or just echo everybody else's opinions, but my opinions are I didn't I didn't love Dawn Trail that much. I did not vibe with it. There were so many things that they did with Dawn Trail that I was just like, really? Like, this is what we're doing? Like, what the hell? Like, first of all, I was so excited for it because it's been, there's like 2 years in between expansions. And so, you know, before the release of Dawn Trail, I was back in the game, playing every day, managing my inventory, grinding the dailies and weeklies and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm ready. I'm here for it. And then I played it, and it just was. First of all, they changed 10 years of you being the main character to somebody else being the main character, and that change alone was like, what are we doing here? This is like that's such a jarring change, and I didn't really like that. I didn't know why they did that. It was such a large. I mean, that's a huge narrative change. You know what I mean? And I feel like they almost didn't warn people for it. I was confused by that. I don't think that was the right way to do it. Um, it's okay if you want to bring in new characters, strong characters, important characters. I think that's great. I think that's necessary to make an expansion interesting. But to take the whole narrative of you being the first person and putting it on somebody else, very jarring, very odd. The whole game is not set up for that, in my opinion. So that alone was bizarre of a choice. And the character that they went with, Wook Lamont, I did not like Wook Lamont that much. She came off as like very whiny and cartoony. That's one thing that I wanted to touch on with Dawn Trail that I really haven't heard people talking that much about. So maybe it's just my own vibe, but Dawn Trail felt way too cartoony. Did anybody else feel like Dawn Trail was a cartoon for some reason? Like the Luke Lamont was just and part of it also is with the character. Like the main character is like an animal, a Rothgar, I think, like the animal person, and then the main bad guy are these. What is it, Garul Jaw? Like they're the lizard people. You know what I mean? Like everybody, and it's a like I get it. It's a fantasy, and I like all the fantasy creatures, Moogles, all that stuff. I love it. I want that in the game. But when you're getting down to all these main important characters and it's some lizard, two-headed lizard guy, it's like, what? You know what I mean? Like it's immersion breaking. And like I said, that's like one of the most important parts of the game for me. And just so many characters were non-humanoid. You know what I mean? They were lizards or animals, or it was just like, I don't know. And plus the story they were trying to tell was, it was hard for me to get immersed in the game. It was hard for me to connect with these characters. You know, I didn't like Wook, and I didn't want to connect with her that much. And the bad guys, I absolutely didn't want to connect with. These lizard people, I didn't find that interesting. You know, they seem very generic. I'm a generic cartoon bad guy. Look out. You know, I mean, that's not my vibe. Like, I thought back to like Heaven's Word, when the story, I was really connecting with it. That was like, everybody was like, the elf. Can't think of the name of the race, but they were all elves or humans, or like there were so many characters that were just more relatable, and um, uh, Estinian, and all of the characters were just, you could have these quiet moments around a campfire and really connect. And then, oddly enough, in Dawn Trail, they had like a campfire scene, but it's just, I don't know. There's just too many non-humanoid characters that kind of bothered me. I want them to keep the fantasy in the game, but when you're trying to connect with some of these characters, it becomes harder when it's a two-headed lizard character. So, and I mean, the large comparison to Final Fantasy is World of Warcraft, and I have had no interest in playing that game. I remember I put it on the computer once just to see what it was, and that game is like a cartoon. And again, if you like it, that's fine. But to me, that just seems like a '90s cartoon that I want no part of. You know what I mean? Like, nothing seems relatable. It's too goofy. I just can't immerse myself in that world at all, like I can with 14. So Dawn Trail was just at the end of it. I haven't really been playing 14 much at all in recent months. Um, the point one patch, I think, had the new raid series. No, I guess the raid. I did enjoy the raid series. Those four fights that came out were good. But here's the thing that is, I haven't played the point one patch. Point two is right around the corner. I think it's 7.2. Um, I don't know if I'm gonna play it. Like, normally when a new patch would come out, I would be there day one. I'd play the whole MSQ day one. I do the raid series game day two, and then I'd start working on the new grind for things and stuff like that. But lately, I just have not had much interest in doing that. I haven't even done the first alliance raid in point one. You know what I mean? And for me, who's been playing it for years, that's different behavior than how I normally play the game. I'm just much more interested in other games right now. So, yeah, currently I am a little bummed about, um, kind of where the game is at these days. I'm hoping that the next expansion changes things a lot. I feel like the game really needs to be changed a lot as far as the direction of it. It's too samey at this point. It like everything, I can predict everything. There's gonna be They need to mix up the formula. I feel like, like if you have like like an ant farm, they need to pick up the ant farm and shake it and mess up all the tunnels for the ants, and do something like that. And they probably won't, because I understand how developed, they're reliant on the constant paycheck that's made by keeping everything the same. But as a player, I want excitement, I want change, I want them to do things like that. And then, completely contrary to that, they're changing Black Mage in 7.2, and I haven't played it yet, but it looks like I'm gonna hate it. Like I said, I've played the whole game as a Black Mage main. I do play other jobs. I've leveled many jobs to 100. So I do enjoy other types of jobs sometimes, but I mostly like magical ranged. I would say Black Mage and Red Mage are probably like my two favorite classes. Um, and all of the things that I like about it, they seem to be getting rid of, which I am just like, what the hell are you guys doing here? Like, this job has been like this for years, and the they're getting rid of some of the core functionality of how you play Black Mage, and I do not understand it. Um, I I guess I won't bash it too much right now. I'll play it first and I'll see. But like, making the spells much shorter, and also getting rid of the fail mechanic of dropping the timer, I just, like, those are the things that you're trying to do when you play the game. You're trying to like stay still so you can cast the spell, and the enemies, you're in a damage incoming damage, but you're a black mage, and you're like, okay, well, let's see if I can get this spell off, zip over to a part buddy, zip back to my ley lines, and fit it all in. Because when you do that, it's amazing. But if you're not worried about dropping the timer, if all your spells are much faster and you just fire them off back to back to back, it kind of kills that gameplay. So, and that's been like the main interest in why I like Black Mage over the years. So very confused with the direction of some of the changes in the game. Um, Boy, we're at like 25 minutes, so I'll probably end this one here for now. Again, I could probably just sit down here and yap about 14 every day and probably have something to talk about because there's just so much going on in the game, right? But I feel better that I got some of that off my chest. Again, overall, it's a fantastic experience. I have so many memories, so many fond memories in this game, and um, it's great. Yeah, it's there's things going on with it. I haven't been playing it lately, but always excited to see where it'll go in the future. And it's definitely been a big part of my gaming experience over the years. So happy to share that with you. If you're still watching this, hey, let me know if you've played the game or if you have any interest in it. I'd love to hear from you and chat about it. Other than that, I guess I'll see you next time. Take care.